It's no surprise that Game of Thrones produced some of the most talked about moments of the past 10 years on television. From baby dragons and sudden beheadings to face swapping in The Walking Dead, here are some of the most paused moments in Game of Thrones history. From the opening moments of Game of Thrones' first episode, audiences are immediately drawn to Ned Stark, the tragically noble patriarch of the Stark clan, and his strong sense of honor and duty. Along with his wife, Catelyn, Ned is the proud parent of 5 children: Robb, Sansa, Bran, Arya, and Rickon. He's also the father of Jon Snow, a bastard Ned produced while he was off fighting a rebellion with King Robert Baratheon, or so he says. Throughout the first season, viewers follow Ned as he leaves the Stark family home of Winterfell to serve as Hand of the King, which starts him down the path that leads inevitably to his death. Over the course of the season, Ned discovers that Robert's eldest son, Joffrey, isn't Robert's son at all. He's actually the product of a relationship between Robert's queen, Cersei Lannister, and her twin brother, Jaime. When Ned reveals the truth after Robert's death, he finds himself put on trial for high treason. He pleads guilty, but it turns out that Joffrey has a bit of a sadistic streak, to put it mildly.
This one's your father. This one here. Look at it and see what happens to traitors.
In one of his first acts as the new king, Joffrey has Ned beheaded in a public execution in front of his family. With that, the sword stroke heard round Westeros simultaneously closed out the first season of Game of Thrones and taught viewers that nobody, not even Ned Stark, was safe. When audiences first meet Daenerys Targaryen, she's a far cry from the queen she will eventually become. As an exiled political pawn whose vicious, ruthless brother Viserys marries her off to Khal Drogo to cement an alliance. Daenerys doesn't seem particularly imposing. However, as she assimilates into Khal Drogo's Dothraki tribe, she finds herself far more powerful than her fallen family, and it soon seems like the Eastern Continent's #1 power couple will soon conquer the world. Unfortunately, Drogo meets an untimely end thanks to an infected wound and a vindictive witch doctor, leaving Daenerys on her own with a Dothraki horde. Luckily, she also has 3 dragon eggs, and after burning her late husband on a funeral pyre, she descends into the fire herself along with the eggs. By morning, the fire is gone, and Daenerys is still alive, rising from the ashes with 3 newborn dragons clinging to her naked body, ready to lead her to conquest. By Season 3, Daenerys has given herself the appropriate title of the Mother of Dragons, having successfully raised the baby monsters into obedient adolescent weapons of mass destruction. But as Daenerys makes her way towards Westeros to claim her throne, she discovers an unknown horror on her side of the Narrow Sea: the slave trade.
To win his shield, an Unsullied must go to the slave marts with a silver mark, find a newborn, and kill it.
Upon visiting Astapor, Daenerys realizes she needs to assemble an army if she's ever going to conquer the armies of King's Landing, so she decides to make a trade with a particularly cruel and repulsive slaver. Daenerys agrees to trade her largest dragon, Drogon, in exchange for his powerful Unsullied army and his translator, Missandei. But it turns out that she has a few other terms and conditions to this agreement. Once Daenerys confirms that the army is hers, she gives Drogon a command: Dracarys. Just like that, the winged beast torches both the slave trader and his town, giving us one of the best moments in Game of Thrones. With an army behind her, a trio of dragons, and her first victory under her belt, Daenerys truly becomes a conqueror in one infinitely pausable moment. Game of Thrones is well known by its fans for being packed full of unbelievably brutal moments, but most of them pale in comparison to the infamous Red Wedding. In the show's 3rd season, Robb Stark walks back a deal with his mother's ally, Walder Frey. In addition to being a gross old man, Walder leads House Frey and controls an important river crossing that could be the Starks' key to holding the North. Unfortunately, Robb follows his heart and marries the woman he loves, Talisa, instead of one of Walder's many daughters, leaving Walder very angry about their would-be alliance. It seems that the Stark family calms the old man down by offering up Cat's brother for the marriage instead, and Walder accepts, with Robb, Cat, and a pregnant Talisa attending the wedding party at the Twins as Walder's guests. Don't get that warm feeling about a happy ending just yet, though. As the wedding band strikes up the ominous tune, The Rains of Castamere, Catelyn watches Walder's men locking the doors, and it's obvious to everyone that this wedding is about to go bad for the good guys. As Edmure and his wife are whisked to safety, Talisa and Robb are brutally dispatched, ending the short reign of the King of the North in a matrimonial bloodbath. The final shot of the episode, where Catelyn mournfully eliminates one of Walder's daughters only to have her own life ended seconds later, is one of Thrones' most disturbing and indelible images. If you ever get invited to a wedding in Westeros, it might be best just to send a nice card and have something from the registry delivered, because they don't tend to end well. Shortly after the Red Wedding, we get another nuptial disaster. To be fair though, this one was definitely a happy ending for viewers, if not for the blushing groom. Ever since Ned's beheading, his eldest daughter, Sansa, remained captive at King's Landing under the care of Joffrey and the Lannisters. After King Robert dies as well, Joffrey takes the throne. And luckily for Sansa, Joffrey decides on a new bride, the beautiful and highborn Margaery Tyrell. He marries her in a lavish ceremony, making her the queen. If you've been paying attention, it will not surprise you to find out that while the wedding is lovely, the reception goes awry in the most gruesome way possible. After emotionally torturing everyone at the ceremony, it seems like Joffrey starts to choke on his cake. But as it turns out, someone poisoned his wine, and he dies in his mother Cersei's arms while Sansa escapes. As he takes his last breath, Joffrey points to his befuddled uncle, Tyrion Lannister, setting up a season's worth of intrigue. With that fatal sip, Joffrey's party becomes known as the Purple Wedding, and puts an end to one of the show's most brutal and despised characters. While the series is focused on the war for the Iron Throne and control over the realm, there's another threat lurking in the north, slowly inching its way towards the Seven Kingdoms. Despite a massive wall that separates Westeros from the untamed and mysterious wilds to the north, the terrifying White Walkers and their undead army spend the entire show heading toward Westeros on a mission to eradicate all living things. As the show progresses, the White Walkers show off several frightening powers, but the scariest White Walker sequence of the entire show takes place in the 5th season, as Jon Snow joins a group of wildlings to try to convince them to join the Night's Watch and fight against the seemingly unstoppable walkers. They're attacked in one of the show's most memorable combat sequences. The good guys put up a valiant fight, but it's clear from the start that they're fighting a losing battle. Eventually, Snow and his companions are overrun and forced to retreat, leaving hundreds of wildlings to a horrible fate. In complete silence, the leader of the White Walkers, the Night King, simply raises his arms and revives all the people he just slaughtered as vicious whites. It's a truly terrifying scene, and it proves just how frightening the Walkers really are. Unfortunately for Jon Snow, his alliance with the Wildlings doesn't go over well with the other members of the Night's Watch when he returns to their headquarters at Castle Black. Despite the fact that he's simply trying to save humanity by assembling as large of an army as possible, his fellow Night's Watchmen feel powerless and betrayed by Jon's insistence on an alliance with their longtime enemies. One night, his mutinous men finally devise a plan. After luring him outside, Jon's men turn on him and take turns stabbing him to death Julius Caesar style, leaving him for dead as the 5th season draws to a close.
For the watch.
Obviously, this was one of the biggest cliffhangers in modern television history, especially with the show's history of killing off the guy you thought was the main character. Shortly into the show's 6th season, though, Jon made his way back to the realm of the living with a little help from Westeros' resident Red Priestess, Melisandre. Jon Snow's death was an incredible moment in his own right, but his return couldn't have been more satisfying. Game of Thrones had no shortage of incredible battle sequences during its 8-season run, but the best of the best by far is definitely Season 6's Battle of the Bastards. It's the epic and long-awaited showdown between Jon Snow and Ramsay Bolton, the vicious, cruel, legitimized bastard of Roose Bolton. Before the show even begins, Ramsay racks up a long list of insults and offenses towards the Starks, including brutalizing Jon's sister Sansa, taking control of Winterfell, and executing Rickon Stark right as the battle begins. So yeah, this one isn't about the Iron Throne, it's personal.
You're going to die tomorrow, Lord Bolton. Sleep well.
The entire battle is made up of moments that deserve to be paused, from Jon's heroic charge onto the battlefield to the moment where he's nearly trampled by horses and buried by fallen soldiers. But the show's final stretch delivers victory after victory. Between the moment where Jon beats Ramsay to a pulp to the climax where Sansa feeds her tormentor to his own hungry hounds, Battle of the Bastards will keep you pausing and rewinding from start to finish. By the final episode of Season 6, Cersei Lannister has faced enough humiliation to last a lifetime. With her last living child, Tommen, and his bride Margaery on the throne, the Queen Mother has been accurately accused of adultery, incest, and other high crimes by the ultra-religious High Sparrow, whose cult has all but overtaken King's Landing. After forcing Cersei to walk naked through the city and face abuse from her subjects, the High Sparrow wants her to stand trial at the Sept of Baelor for a little more public shaming. Cersei, however, has a very different spectacle in mind. While Margaery, the High Sparrow, and most of King's Landing wait for Cersei in the Sept, viewers see her coolly watching things from a high tower, biding her time until the entire Sept explodes, thanks to a blast of wildfire. It's a sequence with several beautifully framed shots worthy of pausing, and an undeniable victory for Cersei, even though it leads poor Tommen to leap to his death out of grief. It's the perfect way to close out a season with a bang. As Game of Thrones drew to a close, everything seemed to lead to 2 points: who would take the Iron Throne, and whether or not the Night King could even be defeated at all. Ultimately, nobody got the throne, but the Night King met his end thanks to an unexpected attack. As the White Walkers descend upon Winterfell and our favorite remaining characters, or what's left of them, all hope seems lost, especially because the Night King can conjure a new army out of dead bodies anytime he wants. As the humans try to hold off the army of undead and White Walkers, the Night King is getting closer and closer to his target, Bran Stark. The situation looks dire, until fully trained assassin Arya Stark leaps from the darkness and kills the Night King herself. A highlight of the final season, Arya Stark's biggest kill is a stunning twist, providing Game of Thrones with one of its all-time best moments. Check out one of our newest videos right here, plus even more Looper videos about your favorite stuff are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.